Welcome everyone. This is the GOATcast podcast. I know this is a different view. I'm usually behind the camera, not in front of it, but today we're going back to the roots of the GOATcast podcast, which is podcasting. So we're going to do this live, free-form kind of just conversation, and we're just going to talk about some sports and some other media. I'm going to get right into it. We're basically going to go over the new morning sports media, which consists of the top two. We're going to talk about the revamped Undisputed as well as the revamped First Take. My feelings on that, how it's going. I'm hearing different stories about the ratings for those shows, but we're going to talk about how the fits are with the people that are on there. Also going to speak on load management and the new rules, and will this help? Will this hurt? Is this a step in the right direction as far as the NBA, whose regular season ratings have been declining for a while, pretty much since COVID, and I think it's time for, I do believe it's time for a change, and I'm going to speak on whether I think this is a positive change or if it's not going to be much of a help as far as the ratings and as far as the excitement for the NBA. And finally, I'm going to do a little segment on my highest viewed short on YouTube, which today consists of Washington Wizards Michael Jordan. So we're going to talk about Washington Wizards Jordan, and was he as bad as people try to make him out to be? We'll discuss that later on. So right now we're going to jump. Well, I'm gonna start with some NFL. I'm not a big NFL analyst, if you want to say that. I watch it, but I don't know every single player on the team. I don't know this stat, that stat. But what I do know is my Carolina Panthers are terrible. 0-3. I knew this was coming. We have a rookie quarterback. We have a new coach. We're in the rebuild season, so I got glimpses of hope last night when they played the Seattle Seahawks, but no go. So yeah, that's my team, the Carolina Panthers, and they are 0-3 and they stink. Well, Bryce Young, we'll see. He's a small quarterback, but maybe he'll bulk up next season, or maybe getting used to the grind of the NFL will catch up and he'll be able to adjust. But we'll see. If you're a Cowboys fan, y'all got a little too comfortable. And y'all got smacked by a team that nobody expected y'all to lose to. My wife is unfortunately a Dallas Cowboys fan, so it was a somber mood in the house last night. We'll just say that. But yeah, I mean, and if the Miami Dolphins score against the Denver Broncos, I literally thought that was a typo on ESPN when I checked that, because I didn't watch the game. I was doing something else, but when I saw 70-20, I was like, this, did they type that wrong? Did they, input it wrong? And then I looked, and 70-20. If I was Shannon Sharp, I'd be mad too. That's not good. But anyways, we're going to jump right into some sports talk as far as the new Undisputed and the new First Take. Undisputed went through some changes. It came back late August, I believe, August 28th, something like that. And they had a new cast. Before it was just Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. But now we have Skip Bayless at the helm, and we have Richard Sherman, we have Michael Irvin, we have Keyshawn Johnson, we have Rachel Nichols, and we have Lil Wayne. Yeah. So far, it's been a mixed bag for me. It's a lot of Keyshawn Johnson and Skip, which I think they're doing an okay job. Keyshawn's not bad, but he's no Shannon Sharp. He tries to argue, but he just takes a bold view and then he just sticks with it. He doesn't even he won't budge, is what I'm going to say. And that's okay. Michael Irvin, he's a little erratic with his conversation, but I think he's fine in that role. I think I like the fact that you kind of rotate guys out and in. It does help in some ways. You do get tired of the same format, the same two guys talking every day. You can't. You can be successful, but I think that you need something fresh on a daily basis. If you're going to do a show every day, having the same two people, it does get monotonous. I mean, unless there's a big happening in a sports game or it's a major time during a sports season, it's really hard to want to rush and watch the same guys over and over again. That's just my opinion. Even when it was Skip and Stephen A. and Max Kellerman, I thought they were good together in all those situations, but it wasn't must see. And now, with the new formats, I think it's more watchable in the sense that you get a variety of different views. And it started with First Take when they would bring in a different panel almost weekly or every day. So, and I thought that was, and you bring in guys that were specific to that sport. Say they brought in NBA players when they talk about the NBA, NFL players, or analysts when they talk about the NFL. So that makes sense, and that does bring what I feel like is a better. It's not always more entertaining, but you get better insight when you have guys that have actually done the sport or have been a part of organizations and a part of these associations. So that's Undisputed and First Take with Stephen A. and Shannon Sharpe. I was one of the few people that said this was not going to work because they are, to me, they're not too much alike, but they are very similar in the way they present themselves. They're very loud and outspoken, and when you have two guys of that nature, I think it just brings too much chaos. It made it more entertaining when you have a reserve guy like Skip Bayless up against a guy like Shannon Sharpe that's a little more animated. It made that opposites attract kind of situation. But here, I'm actually surprised that they do work pretty well together. And I'm glad that they do it in doses. He's only on there, I believe, Monday and Tuesdays. And that's during the NFL season. I would like to see or hear his. I do like his NBA and his basketball commentary for the most part. Sometimes you can tell it sounds a little rehearsed or scripted, especially when it's outside of the NBA, like some of the college basketball stuff. I can tell. I don't think Shannon's a real college basketball enthusiast, but I think I do like some of his NBA takes. He's, his LeBron crush is entertaining for the most part, especially when you have somebody as adamant about the GOAT debate as Stephen A. and even Skip Bayless. That's when Skip would kind of get out of his kind of stoic demeanor, is when that debate came up, or even the Tom Brady. Of course, that was probably what caused the rift. And there's still things coming out about Skip and Shannon's relationship and how that went. But overall, I think First Take is making the right moves, and I think that they work. Like I said, in doses, those two work, and it's been entertaining. The only downside I could see is they kind of agree a lot, which when you're doing debate shows or shows of that nature, you want the contrast. That's what makes it good. Is you hearing two sides of two different opinions coming together and kind of battling it out. So if everybody agrees, it's just kind of like, well, next topic, because you don't really get a whole lot of extra fluff when it comes to that. But all in all, I think, and I hear the numbers are doing pretty well. I believe they're doing better than Undisputed, which I'm not surprised by, because Shannon Sharpe is bringing his fan base over to ESPN, and Stephen A. has. I didn't watch First Take after Max Kellerman was let go or moved, just because I didn't like the way it was done. But I would watch here and there, especially during the NBA season, to see what Stephen A. and some of his panelists had to say. But now I'm watching it a little more frequently now. So I think that both shows have made improvements. Both shows have done things to make the show a little more watchable. I think Skip's gonna have a tougher time because he has so many personalities to deal with, and he is not the most aggressive host when it comes to that. He kind of, when he has these kind of guys, he kind of sits back, especially now that he's kind of outnumbered. But I think they're kind of work out the kinks. Him and Keyshawn do well, I think, and Richard Sherman so far has been pretty laid back and pretty cool with everything. He hasn't gone too far. And of course, Michael Irvin, but Michael Irvin's going to be Michael Irvin. So you're going to get a little bit of a little craziness in there from time to time. But overall, I think the morning sports media is working well, and I hope that they continue. Like I said, I'm very much looking forward to when the NBA season starts. Hopefully, we'll get some interaction between Stephen A. and Shannon, and of course Skip and his fellow panelist. But real quick, I'm gonna play some. I'm really looking forward to more of the GOAT debate between Shannon and Stephen A. But let's play a clip of Stephen A. basically destroying Shannon on this topic. Well, in my opinion, because of course I'm a Jordan fan.
If somebody said you weren't number one, you don't feel insulted.
No.
So why you got to be insulted about LeBron?
Because.
That's emotion.
No,
that's
it ain't no emotion.
That's emotion.
But the GOAT.
Huh?
See,
that's emotion
you
right
told
there.
me the storm was coming.
Right.
See, your storm happened for 9 years, then took 2 years off.
Right.
And it happened for 3 years and took another 3 years off.
That's right.
And then it kind of just was like drizzling. Right. My storm been going for 21 years raining.
Right. You could say that, and my retort to that would be 6 NBA Finals losses. You talk about Michael Jordan?
I want you to tell me the team that Michael Jordan faced that was the equivalent of the 17 and 18.
No one. Can I respond to that?
Sure.
Can I tell you why? No one. Do you know why? Because none of them had Jordan.
So moving along, load management. This has been an issue that's crept into the NBA for the last, I'd say, it's been there for a little while. And we can accredit different organizations, teams, coaches, staffs, mostly the San Antonio Spurs. I am a Spurs fan, so I follow them or try to follow them religiously. And we remember Tim Duncan sitting out games, especially back-to-backs. Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. Sometimes he sit all three. I've seen him sit almost the entire starting five. Danny Green, back when they were playing some beautiful basketball. So it's a trend that started way back but wasn't fully embraced until later on. And teams have been embracing it more and more. And I'm not sure if it's because we put so much emphasis on the postseason or because players are just the current era of NBA play is just so intense, I guess you could say, that they feel the need that these high-paid players and these agents want these guys healthy so they can earn the max monies. So in doing so, they have to look after themselves and their health in the process. But therein lies the problem that when you're arresting these guys, especially on road trips and things of that nature, you're taking away from the fan. And the fan, for any sport, for any entertainment, is your number one. That is what you're there for. That's who's, truthfully, in all honesty, that's who's paying your paychecks. If you're taken away from the customer, then you start losing that customer and you start losing money. And for being a global multi-billion-dollar corporation that is the association, the NBA, you want all the positive press you can get because you want to continue to expand. And if players are not playing especially star player. It is a star-driven league. I mean, you can't deny that. I mean, people don't watch the NBA the way they watch college basketball. You watch college basketball because you enjoy the game. Most people that watch enjoy the game because it's not heavily star-driven. It is more of a team-based approach to the game, and you watch because you're rooting for that team, or you enjoy that team, or you just enjoy basketball because, truth be told, college basketball is much more fundamentally sound to me than the NBA, which is more you kind of play through your players instead of playing through your system for the most part, especially nowadays. But that's a whole nother topic. So when your players aren't playing, and these star players that people come to see aren't playing, then how can I explain that to my son who came to the Coliseum in Charlotte, Spectrum, to see LeBron James, and LeBron James doesn't show up, Anthony Davis doesn't show up, or they're in street clothes? I mean, is it just being in their presence, or do you actually want to see their game? Most want to see them play. They don't want to just see them. I like I said, I'm a big San Antonio Spurs fan. I was a little, even though he was injured, I wanted to see Kawhi Leonard play, but he was injured at the time and injured his hand or something. This was, I forget what season this was, but it's been quite a few years ago. Still, when he was still a San Antonio Spur, but I was at least glad to be able to see Tim Duncan play, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, all these guys that I grew up, admiring the game. But if I had Pop sat those guys, I would be really upset because I paid the money, I drove the amount of time I had to get there to watch this game, and to not be able to see those players, that's got to be disheartening to the fans. So luckily the league has stepped in because you got guys sitting the last 10 games because the team realized, hey, we're not gonna make it into the postseason, so we're gonna shut you down. The players, so the fans that come to see that, Dame Lillard's not there. So they have put some things in place to make this a little more, make it a little tougher for teams and organizations to just really, really abuse the load management concept. So I'm going to read off some of the new changes I've got on my screen over here. So if you see me looking over, that's me reading from here. So now no more than one star player is unavailable for the same game. So case in point, Anthony Davis, LeBron James. Both can't sit unless one is legit hurt, but not for rest and not for my stomach hurts. If they're able-bodied to do this, then they will be on the court, or there will be a fine, I believe. Teams must ensure that star players are available for national TV and in-season tournament games. So that's pretty much self-explanatory. If you're able to go, you got to play on your national TV game. That makes sense because networks want eyeballs. We don't want to see the third-string team playing huge minutes. We want to see LeBron. We want to see KD. We want to see Steph. We don't want to see your backups on a national televised game. It's just that's not what we want. Teams must maintain a balance between the number of one-game absences for a star player in home games and road games, with a preference for those absences that happen in home games. So that's another self-explanatory thing. If you're not going to play, we'd rather you not play during home games because they get to see you all the time rather than missing games on the road, because those people are most likely coming just to see you if you're a star player. Teams must refrain from any long-term shutdown or near shutdown when a star player stops participating in games or plays in a materially reduced role in circumstances affecting the integrity of the game. So that's probably due to Luka. I believe it was Luka and Kyrie being shut down, or one or the other, and then Dame just, like I said, just shutting it down 10 games out makes sense. And then teams must ensure that healthy players resting for a game are present and visible to the fans. So also makes sense. If LeBron's not going to play, at least have him there so fans can witness that player. It is what it is, and it is. I believe that it's necessary to do this because this is a star-driven league. It's not the NFL where you can't even see the players. They're wearing helmets, but you're supporting the team. Here, a lot of fans, surprisingly, and I'm guilty of it myself, are fans of players. So they follow the player, not the team. I have a nephew who is a LeBron fanatic. He's been a Cleveland Cavalier fan. He's been a Miami Heat fan. He's been a Los Angeles Lakers fan. All the while, he could care less about those teams when LeBron is not on their roster. So, when you have fans like that, which are a lot of fans, I'm sure most of you out there have a favorite player that you follow and that you get behind. When you're going to see a game, you want to see him. Or if you're watching a national televised game, you want to see that player play. That's the reason you're watching, because you want to see that player. I think this is a move in the right direction. There will be fines handed out if teams do not abide by these new rules. That's always the big kicker is nobody wants to throw money away. Even though these guys are billionaires and millionaires and multi-billionaires and multi-millionaires, these owners, they still don't want to dish out hundreds of thousands of dollars just because of whatever. Just because player is crying about they want to sit out. I think we'll see a change. I think we'll start seeing a change. And I hope it stays that way. And I hope that it achieves what it needs to achieve. And also to qualify for certain league honors like MVP, All-Star, All-NBA teams, all of that, which for a lot of players, if they don't make that, or if they make that, there are incentives in their contract, so that means more money. So they have to play at least 65 games. I don't think that's harsh. They're not saying like you can only miss 2 games. You got to play 80 games. Missing 17 games that should be on the high end of games missed for most players, especially healthy players. Your baseline should, at least in my opinion, should be 70 games or 75 games. You pick and choose a few times where maybe you're just worn down. You got a little wear and tear, so you want to make sure you don't exacerbate that. Yeah, the baseline should be, if I was a player, I'm not, but if I was a player, I would say I want to at least play 70 games. And I don't think that's too much to ask, especially with the amount of money being made on that side. But there are some exceptions to the rule. There will have to, if you're 35 at the beginning of the season, which a lot of star players are, you can't, there's some exceptions to those guys. Let me bring that up real quick. So there will be some allowances to players that are 35 and older come the beginning of the NBA season. They can have pre-approved, load management for back-to-backs, and guys that have, high career workloads, 34,000 regular season minutes. They can be pre-approved for, missing a few back-to-back, which 35, I'm quite a bit older than that, but I can understand because your body at that age is a little bit, is a lot of times very much creeping up on you. So you can't expect those guys to play high-level basketball every game, even though this is going to segue into my final topic. A guy named Michaeljordan at the age of 40 was able to play all 82 games in his final season. But in that final season, it wasn't with the Chicago Bulls. It was with the Washington Wizards. And I did a short talking about how cool it was that Jordan did come back, and he actually donated his 2001-2002 salary to the 9/11 relief efforts, and that was admirable, very admirable. Somebody, I guess, thought I was trying to downplay that in the comment section, but I wasn't. That is admirable. That is somebody of that stature giving out his, and I haven't looked up the numbers, but I'm sure Mike wasn't playing for pennies, so him giving that to the relief efforts was a cool little thing. We knew he was coming back. When it was announced he was coming back, I knew this wasn't Mike coming back for his 7th and 8th ring or to take over the league. Jordan just wasn't that guy anymore. And especially once you saw him on the court, 38-year-old Mike he wasn't what he once was. His father time had definitely kicked in, beat him up a little bit. He just wasn't as athletic. You missed the explosiveness. I mean, he could do it in small doses, but you saw a more methodical, a much slower Mike on both ends of the court. But we tend to look at Washington Wizards Jordan and act like he was just Brian Scalabrine out there. We act like he was just fodder and was just out there just, I don't know, putting up pedestrian numbers. Mike wasn't putting up MVP level numbers. No, he wasn't doing that. But he was putting up numbers that in the league now, even now, would be solid numbers. Mike took a dip in his scoring during that time, but if you look at the numbers, they really were on par with what he did throughout his Bulls run. His rebounds were close to the same. His assists were about the same, if not more, in his 2001-2002 campaign. And even in that 2001-2002 team was on par to be in the playoffs. He had them actually playing some decent basketball. He got hurt. He had his knee issue. In that 2001-2002 season, injuries did affect, Jordan. He tore cartilage. He had a lot of knee issues. So the eye test kind of showed that he wasn't quite, the player that he once was, which was to be expected. He had been out of the league for almost 3 years, 2 to 3 years, and hadn't played real meaningful basketball in that time. I mean, I'm sure of course, Mike kept himself in shape, but being in shape and playing a full NBA game and a full NBA season are two different things. So he came back and was pretty good, I felt. And I think that because of who he is, we kind of don't give him a pass because he is considered the GOAT by many. So him coming back and not wowing, him not making the playoffs, his scoring being a little bit less than normal, even though he did lead the Wizards in scoring that season. But it wasn't the dominant Michael Jordan. And I think but he was with a new cast, a new crew, and he tried to make it work, even though he got into his bad habits of, trying to do everything himself, which of course is never going to work on an NBA team. A team sport, you can't just do everything. But in Jordan's case, he tried to, because he was playing with some young guys. He tried to, I guess, take over, which is admirable at his age, at that age, but that wasn't going to equate to winning basketball. Even though they were in contention to be a playoff team before he subsequently got hurt and he missed a lot of time. In this final season, like I said, his numbers other than scoring were on par with the rest of his career. His rebounding, his assists, his steals were pretty much close to the baseline of what he was doing in Chicago. So was Michael Jordan the greatest player in the world during his Washington Wizard tenure? No. That's obvious. It was a new day and age. It was a new league, and he felt the rigors of it. But does that diminish his greatness? No, not either. If he had come back and just stunk and been regulated to a reserve role or a role player role, that'd be one thing. But he was still the alpha on that team. He was still the man on that team, and he still took over games when he had to. He wasn't, he just didn't have the clientele. 2001, 2002, if he went to the Los Angeles Lakers or San Antonio Spurs or a team like that, we'd probably be talking differently, because he may have been able to be that piece to put a team over the top. But that didn't happen. And he was part owner of the Washington Wizards. So of course, he was trying to bring in ticket sales and to get that, they were rebranded at that time due to switching over from being the Washington Bullets to the Washington Wizards. So it was, I think, just as much business as it was his desire to get back on the court. And, his desire did lead him to 2 seasons that wasn't as legendary as his Bulls run, especially his late or 90s Bulls runs. But they were still productive, and they just add to the lore and to the mystique of Michael Jordan. He came back after retiring, and he played some solid basketball. That's all we could ask. When he came back, I wasn't expecting championships. I just wasn't. I don't know about you. Maybe you were, but I wasn't. And at the end of the day, he came back, he entertained the crowds, and he left pretty much on his own accord, finally, and hasn't been back since. And I appreciate what he did, especially with that relief effort, donating his salary and things of that nature, and just trying to help the Washington Wizards to grow as a team. So we're going to wrap up right there. I will say that these podcast episodes will be YouTube exclusive. I will only do it on YouTube. I'm not moving these to Anchor/Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, any of those right now, because I'm trying to think of the right move for there. It's just a little harder to grow your fan base there than it is here. So I'm going to probably wait for a while before I start uploading on those formats in the future. But hopefully you guys enjoy this. Like I said, I will try to do these at least every other week. I'll try to ramp them up, especially when the NBA does start, because I do want to kind of give my opinions on what's going on in the NBA when it starts. Also, if you enjoy NBA breakdowns and analysis, I've got plenty of videos out there that I've done research and put some time in. So I hope you guys will check them out. Here's a few. Put links in the description for some of these. And just, if you want to check on the playlist, I've got plenty of different variety of videos when it comes to the NBA, even interactive ones. If you've been paying attention to the Clash of the Titans, it's a series I've done to kind of be interactive, where I kind of put 2 past and present players together and do it in kind of like a MMA or boxing format, where you have the red quarter, blue quarter. I let you guys vote who would do the best in a high stakes playoff game. So we're going to end it here, and I do appreciate you guys. I did not start this YouTube thing to try to grow. Actually, I just did it for fun, and I'm still doing it for fun, but I thank you all for helping me grow throughout this time. And so I'll be back this weekend, actually, with a new video. It's going to return to the series, The GOAT Moments, and we're going to do something a little different from Mike. We're going to talk about some off the court things that made him one of the greatest of all times. So check that out this weekend, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, I will be back. Thank you guys again, and I'll be back soon.